The new Hogwarts Legacy game has everyone all kinds of excited for Harry Potter again, so we're going to take a look at creating the Lumos spell effect from the movies. And before we get started, if you want to see more videos like this one, definitely subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified when I post new videos. Let's jump in. When you shoot your video, make sure your wand has something on the tip you can track. I used a wand that actually has a light on the tip, but you could also use a piece of colored tape and paint it out later with the clone stamp tool. With our footage in After Effects, the first thing we need to do is track the motion of the wand. So with After Effects built-in point tracker, put the point tracker to the tip of the wand and click Analyze. Since my scene was dark, I did not get a perfect track, so I had to go in manually and adjust some of the track points. After your shot is tracked, create a new null object and apply your track data to both the X and Y dimensions. If your subject moves out of frame like I did, you can add some additional position keyframes to the null and move it with your subject. Since I walked towards the camera, I also keyframed the scale of the null to increase over time as I got closer. To create the Lumos effect, we're going to draw a small circle with the ellipse tool and call it glow. Position it to the tip of the wand. Then we'll take the Gaussian blur effect and uncheck repeat edge pixels and set the blurriness to 10. Now duplicate the layer, move it to the bottom and set the scale to 150 and the blurriness to 30. Duplicate this layer now and set the scale to 200 and the blurriness to 100. Now keep duplicating the most recent layer, increasing the scale by 100 and the blurriness by 100 until you have 8 copies in total. Next, we're going to decrease the opacity of the second glow copy to 75%, the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth copies to 40%, the seventh copy to 20%, and the eighth copy to 10%. Select all the glow layers and parent them to the null object. Then select all the glow layers again and the null object and pre-compose them and call the composition Lumos Spell. In this comp, you'll probably see some banding happening through the blurs. That's because our project is in 8 bits per channel. If you change the project to 16 bits per channel, it will smooth out the effect. If you need to stay in 8 bits per channel, you can also add an adjustment layer and apply the fastbox blur, increasing the radius to smooth out the banding. Now create a new black solid and put it at the very bottom. Back in the main comp, set the blending mode to screen. In the movie, the color of the Lumos effect is kind of blue or cyan, so to add some color, add the curves effect and bring up the midtones in the blue and green channels. I also added the vibrance effect and turned the vibrance to 75 and the saturation to 12. It's looking pretty good, but we're going to fine tune it a little bit more. Back in the Lumos spell comp, grab the shape tool and create a star and call it flare. In the polystar path options, adjust the points to 7 and the inner radius to 5, and make sure it is on top of the adjustment layer. Now add a Gaussian blur effect to the flare layer and set the blurriness to 10 and decrease the opacity to 30 and parent it to the null. This just gives a little bit of a flare effect to the Lumos spell. The Lumos effect from the movie also has this band of light animating from the center out, so to create this, go back into the Lumos spell comp and duplicate the top Lumos glow layer and name it light band, and move it to the very top. Change the Gaussian blur amount to 50, turn off the fill setting, and set the stroke width to 6. At the beginning of the layers, set a keyframe for the scale to increase from 0 to 900, a keyframe for the opacity to animate from 10% to 0, and a keyframe for the stroke width to animate from 6 to 3 over time. To loop the keyframes continuously throughout the timeline, Option or Alt-click the stopwatch and type the expression loop out parentheses, and leave the parentheses empty. Make sure this expression is copied to the stroke width, scale, and opacity keyframes. And now the band of light will continue animating throughout your shot. To add some light interaction with my scene to the rock wall, I duplicated the layer and added the Luma key effect and soloed the layer so that I could see what the Luma key was doing. And I used it to select the brighter parts of my image. This way, when I walk in front of the rock wall, I will not be selected. I then drew a mask around the wall with a high feather and added the curves effect to brighten it. Then I keyframed the opacity of the rock wall layer to decrease to 0 as I leave the frame. Lastly, I color graded my footage and here's the final shot. The Lumos spell effect is for sure one of my favorites from the Harry Potter movies, and the techniques used in this video are great for effects with glows or lights. And if you want to see a tutorial on a different effect, put that in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.
Take